They say that breaking up is never easy to do, but for gay guys, it might be just that much harder. Hey there. If you've clicked on this video, I'm going to assume that you're either gay and going through a breakup or know someone who is gay and going through a breakup. Okay, so breakup advice is everywhere online. But if you've clicked on this video, I'm assuming you're looking for something beyond the generic how to get over someone. You're probably looking for either gay specific advice or want something a little bit more personal. So that's why I'm telling this story. So when I was 18, I met someone who I thought would be the love of my life. We would do everything together. We would go on cute little dates. We would spend Saturday afternoons together. We would go on hikes. We would laugh, watch movies, and we had just generally great chemistry. I really thought at the time that he was the one. And I really thought that until I learned this one thing. But before we get to that thing, I want to tell you a little bit more about the story and how we got there. Okay, so back to the story. I thought this guy was great. I had some initial misgivings about a few different aspects of our interests that didn't fully align. For example, he was super into like sci-fi and fantasy, and that wasn't really something that was my cup of tea. But I figured if he's into it, I could be into it. And that's part of where we're going with the problem. So after a picture perfect little high school romance, I went to university. And my university wasn't really that far away, but it was a few hours away by car or train, which was far enough away that basically we couldn't spend every day together anymore. We were basically like a medium distant couple. But I would go every single weekend to go see him. Every single one. Importantly, he rarely went up to come see me. Red flag, anyone? Maybe. So we did that for about 9 months, and then I finally came back. This was for the summer after my freshman year of university. And so then we were back, or at least I thought. This second summer was a lot different than the first summer, though. I noticed him being sometimes mean to me, picking fights, and just generally treating me like an add-on in his life. Where we used to have plans where it was just me and him, all of a sudden, all of our plans had to involve someone else or other groups of people. It was as if he didn't really want to spend time with me one-on-one anymore. To be honest, I was feeling a bit dejected, but I thought maybe he has a point. It's not bad to have bigger groups of friends, and we can hang out together whilst also hanging out with other people. And to be clear, we weren't in an open relationship or anything like that. But despite some of his distance and distancing himself from me, I felt like he was still the one. And you might ask, well, why did you think he was still the one? And that's a good question, sis. But I guess to me, it felt like this is someone who really cares about me. And this is the first real relationship I've ever had. Despite our distance, we had made it for 15 months, which in retrospect doesn't sound that long. But for me at the time, it felt like an eternity. And more than that, I really, really wanted someone to build a life with. And that's when we get to the lesson of this story. I go back to university for my sophomore year. We do more of the same, me going down to visit him rarely going up to visit me. And then one day, out of the blue, I'm walking out from one of my poli-sci classes and I check Facebook. This was back when people actually checked Facebook on a semi-regular basis. And I look at my phone and I see this message pop up from this person that I hadn't really talked to since high school. And this person, by the way, is someone who I had hooked up with previously, but that's not super relevant to the story, but it just kind of shows how out of the blue it was. It was like kind of like a former hookup buddy just randomly messaging me. And if you're a gay guy, you might know where this is going because I've heard this story among other people in my life, especially other gay men in my life, many, many times. It went something like this, the message. It went, hey, I'm not trying to stir anything and I don't really know the details of your relationship, but I wanted to just point this out in case there was something going on here because I would want someone to do the same for me if they found my boyfriend on this app. And it was a screenshot of someone's profile on a very famous gay dating app. And there it was, a picture of my boyfriend on this dating app with, importantly, in the bio details saying he was single. There was his face, there was his body, no shame, not even really trying to hide it. I was so devastated. But even when confronted with the truth, I was still in such denial. And that's how powerful what I'm about to talk about really is. See, the biggest mistake I had when I was first dating, when I had my first baby gay relationship, was that I wanted so badly for him to be the one. And a lot of this comes down to just being young and naive. But If you're clicking on this video and you're going through some sort of heartbreak, I do know that the feeling that this person is the one is something that we deal with a lot as gay people, especially. And the reason we deal with that is we spend so much time in the closet not really being able to experience love. And then when we finally get love, it feels like this is a once in a lifetime experience, even more so than it is for straight people. But in that desperation to hold so tightly onto them, we can so often lose ourselves. Now, I was 20 when all of this happened, and to be honest with you, I wasn't the most mature. But despite the obvious betrayal, I couldn't fully believe it. So I confronted him, and he told me, "Oh, no, I get where you're coming from, and I would be so mad too, but that's actually not me. That's someone using my photos and pretending to be me." Which, at the time, I took as problematic because, one, it meant that he was sharing pictures of himself topless with other people. But I don't know, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, not because I was a complete idiot, that's kind of dumb, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because it was so important to me that we make it through it. After all, he was the guy that I thought we were going to go to college with, go to law school, build a life together, get married, all of it. That whole white picket fence fantasy was really what was going on. And more than that, it was this idea of a Prince Charming that I just couldn't let go of. So if I had to forgive him or kind of gaslight myself into believing what was clearly a lie, I was almost willing to do it. And looking back, that's super scary to think about. But then I sat on it for a little bit. It wasn't long before my desperation to keep the relationship going hit against the reality. And I couldn't shake this feeling that I was being lied to, because I knew I was being lied to. So one night, a few weeks after we had our initial conversation about the pictures on this app, I told my friend, "Hey, I'm single tonight." And she said, "What? I thought you're still with him." And I said, "Well, I am, but we all know he's lying. So tonight, I'm single." I did have some fun that night. That was great. We love that for young 20-year-old Thomas. And I decided to pick up the phone and call him and tell him what I had done. I did this for two reasons. One, part of me did feel like he had the right to know, but probably bigger than that, I wanted to get him back. It was like that Taylor Swift video where she takes a, golf club to a car. Oh, blank space. That's the one. So I was having my kind of 1989 Taylor Swift moment. I'm not even really that big of a Swiftie, but it comes to mind here. So I tell him, I just had a little fling with this guy, and to be honest with you, I feel like it's fair given the circumstances. And he said, "Oh, that's great, because I've actually been hooking up with guys for months now." I was so mad. Even in my attempt for vengeance, I couldn't really fully get that because he outdid me. And needless to say, this toxic mess of a relationship just went down from there, and really it ended that night. But as messy as the whole breakup was, and as honestly kind of toxic as the whole relationship was, I was so devastated at that moment. And that's why I'm making this video. I want to talk to that person who is going through a devastating breakup, who feels like the whole world is just crashing down. And more importantly, I want to talk to that gay guy who feels like they'll never find the one. I'm here to say you will find the one, because the one that you need is you. Here's what I learned from this breakup that I want to share with you. If I met my 20-year-old self and I had to give him advice right now, here's what I would say. 1, be sad, have a cry, let yourself feel those emotions. It's important. And after a few weeks, once you've cried it out, move on to the second thing. 2, spend time and connect with yourself. Now that you don't have this other person in your life, you can feel an empty void, but this is the perfect time for you to reconnect with who you are. All those things that you wanted to do that he didn't like, all those shows that you wanted to watch that he wasn't interested in, watch them, do it, be your own person. That was my big mistake. I was not my own person. And after a few months of that, and you've discovered more of who you are, then move on to the third step. 3, start to date again. But date again with an open mind and without the goal of finding the one. The one doesn't exist. Be open-minded to trying new guys and trying new types of people. Be open-minded to dating people who are completely different than your ex. And be open-minded to dating people who are outside of your usual type. It's not a sprint, so take your time. Be selective. And hopefully, by not trying to make someone the one, things naturally will fall into place. It wasn't long after that breakup and after a spring of healing and connecting with myself, that I was ready to go back into the dating phase. And I went back into the dating pool with the intention of having short, fun flings for the summer. I did not want to find the one, really. I just wanted to have fun. Then I met my current partner. And I was actually resistant to making him into my boyfriend at first because I really had learned to love the freedom and independence that I had learned after basically getting rid of my first boyfriend. But there was just something special about him. And I knew that while I was nervous to jump into another relationship, I was going to do so without losing myself this time. And I'm so glad that I did because we've had such a wonderful past decade together. We're going to get married in October, which is something I honestly never thought was possible if you had asked my 20-year-old self if I was going to get married, because I was so heartbroken that I had lost the one. So you might be thinking, okay, well, good for you. That does nothing for me right now. And in a way, you're right. At the moment, you're probably feeling sad. And that's why I say refer back to point 1. And you're probably feeling devastated right now. I fully acknowledge that. If I had heard this at 20, I probably would brush it off too. But maybe come back to this video in a couple weeks when you're feeling a little bit less fresh. Or if it's already been a couple weeks, come back to this in a couple months and just kind of see what resonates with you again. I'm willing to bet that as time goes on, your perspective might change. What I'm hoping for every gay guy who clicks on this video is that they know that they're worthy and they're loved. And that they know just because someone broke up with them or just because their relationship is ending doesn't mean it all has to be bad. In fact, it can be the most liberating thing in the world to go through a breakup, even though it's so hard. A quick disclaimer about this video. If you are experiencing a mental health challenge and feel like the support of a professional would be appropriate, I highly encourage you to do so. This is just my experience based off of my personal lived experience, and it should not be taken as professional advice in any way. But I'm hoping by sharing my story, I can help just one heartbroken gay guy get through a really challenging time. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm in kind of sporty attire, it's because I'm about to go to the gym. So, gotta go. Bye.